and I've already captured my informed consent. So you see how it says untitled form? Name your study. Just name it. So I'm going to do RXP study. That's what I'm naming it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a form description. And what I've now in the form description pasted is my informed consent. Yours is going to change. The one thing that you will not have is the approval protocol number. This was an actual consent form that I used, so I lifted it and pasted it there. So you're going to delete the protocol number, but your project title is going to be relevant to you. You're not going to have Dr. Cohen, right? So because she's not on this, this is for a class. You're going to have my address and you're going to have telephone number, mine. Now, as the research assistants, all of your names go there. Every single one of your names. Now, in this case, let me take someone. So I would say, I'm making it up, Marie Tropiano, right? And then I would, because there are 5 of you, I would put her email there. Marie.tropiano@cix.cuny.edu. And then I would add the next person. Grabbing another person. Sem Gunger, and then his email, right? Sem.Gunger, and don't worry, I'm gonna take hands, at cix.csi.cuny.edu, and you get the idea, ... Now, the purpose of the research would be whatever your purpose is. So the purpose of the research in this context is explore attitudes towards our prescriptive authority for psychologists, right? Or RXP, right? And then inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, whatever you had on your IRB, you put there, procedures, what they're going to be asked to do, risks and benefits, compensation. Don't worry, Destiny, I got you. I'm going to go through this first, and then I'm going to take questions. And then compensation, there's no compensation, confidentiality, however that's going to be handled, research concerns, how that's going to be handled. Additional information, this stays the same, this stays the same, this stays the same. So the only thing you're probably tweaking is your purpose, your exclusion, inclusion, your procedures, risks, benefits, and compensation. Everything else should stay the same. Destiny, you're up.
That was a real quick question. For the emails, we have been using our personal emails when we were using the shared doc. Is that okay for the forms?
If you're comfortable with that and having people reach out to you via personal email, that's fine. If you're not, then you can use your CIX.
Okay.
Whenever you're comfortable with it, I am not going to be too bothered by how you do that.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions? So you need a consent form. The first thing, remember how we said it's called informed consent. We did the ethics lecture, we did the IRB lecture. They must know what they're getting themselves into before they agree to be in the study. So you have to tailor your consent form to your topic. Now, the purpose of me giving you a consent form, an example, is so that half the work is done. You just fill it in accordingly. You see how easy that is? Always trying to make your life straight to the point. Now, afterwards, you have your standard questions. So question 1 is, are you 18 years or older? Right? And now, this goes back to a question DeAndre said, well, how do we do this? Currently, what we have is a multiple choice, which means multiple choice means they can only pick one option. You might, throughout the course of your survey, have other options you use. Check boxes is used when you're allowing them to answer more than one answer. Short answer is the other one you might consider using, especially when you ask them, what is your age? They're going to write their age out. So whenever they need to type in the answer, you use short answer. Those are the 3 you're going to use. So I'm going to, watch this, I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to click add all. Now they're all there. But what do you mean maybe? Either 18 or older. It's a yes, no question. So I'm going to get rid of maybe. Now, I've made a question. Watch what I'm about to do because this is absolutely critical for you. If you don't want to have to write the response choices for your survey over and over and over, I'm going to show you something to make your survey construction a little bit quicker. You see this like 2 pages on top of one another? Duplicate. I click duplicate, and what does it do? It copies the question. Now, obviously, the question isn't the same. The next question would be, do you understand the information presented in the consent form? Making it up, right? So we want to verify their age, their understanding, their capacity to consent, and we want them to acknowledge their volunteer status. So I'm going to duplicate the question again, the next one down, and say, with this being said, would you like to participate? All right. Now, one thing that I'm going to show you as well, I've made all my 3 questions. What I want to do is I want to make sure all my questions are required. Why do you want to make sure all your questions are required? Anyone have an idea?
They'll skip questions.
They'll skip it. And you're going to be like, oh, I have 300 participants. And you know what they did? They clicked the link and never filled out the survey. You need them to be able to get to the finish line. Now, another thing which I'm going to show you, but I'm going to come back to it later, is you can go to a section based on an answer. So if they say yes, continue to the next section. If they say no, well, we don't want them to participate, do we? We want them to be excluded from the study. So you want to click submit form. So that moves them to the end of the study, says, thank you for your interest. Thank you for your participation. They never fill out the survey when you do that. Because if they say they're under 18, remember what you said in your IRB application, right? You said that they had to be 18 years or older. Do you understand the information being presented? I'm going to do go to section again. If they say no, I'm going to do submit form. Again, if they lack understanding of the information, they can't consent. And if they can't give proper consent, they should not be going further with your study, right? So you move that to submit form. And with that being said, would you like to participate? Same thing. If they say they don't want to participate, if they say no, they don't want to participate, then you shouldn't be giving them that because they're saying no. Why are you forcing it upon them? So notice how the Google form can funnel them through the survey based on their answers. Does that make sense? So now I've made my consent form. That is page 1. Listen to what I'm about to say. This is also crucial. Every instrument you have must be on its own page. You don't put all your instruments pushed together. Remember a question that was asked early in the semester, can I take some of the items and not others? I said, no, you have to take the whole instrument. Well, because it preserves its reliability and validity, the same thing can be said about making sure that each instrument is self-contained. So what I'm going to do is show you how to make a new page. You see this add section? That creates a page break. So I'm going to do add section. And now I'd like group 1. Can you tell me one of your instruments? Shout it out loud and proud. Do I need to call upon someone from group 1? I'll do that. All right, so group 1, Sem, what is one of your instruments? Sem. Is Sem here? Yes, no, maybe so. All right, well, that's not good. All right. Who else is in group 1? I want to get through this as quickly as possible to put you into your groups. So can someone from group 1 please, please, please help me out? I'll go back into the attendance. I don't know why I have
Oh, sorry.
that.
I'm still waiting on the IT desk from CSI to let me back into my SLAS, but the last I checked, we had tweaked around our assignment, and I still don't have access to a survey.
So you aren't the only person in your group though, right?
Yeah.
Other people in the group.
I don't
if you
have one personally. That's the only thing that I can say. I don't think they do either.
I don't believe that all members of your group lack access to CSI. I don't believe that.
No. I know that some have access. I just don't think they have a survey.
Okay, so your group is well behind. You need to get a survey because you're collecting data in 2 days. Moving on. Group 2. Can I get someone from group 2 to share? Abdel?
One of our measures is a racial and ethnic scale. It's a racial and ethnic microaggression scale, to be specific.
Now, here's the deal. When you do this, you don't want to label the instrument in its full. Notice I'm doing an abbreviation. This was the purpose of asking. So the REMS 45, right? We're going to call it the REMS 45. Are there any instructions to the person who fills out the REMS 45? I'm sure there are. Something like identify a microaggression. Have you experienced following microaggression the last 6 months or something of that nature?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of components to it, but it's like where is it? Someone told me they don't see color, or someone told me they do
Now
not see
that's an example. What are the instructions?
Oh, okay. Uh, it just says test format permissions. It doesn't say anything about instructions.
Can I unshare my screen and can you share your screen?
Sure.
Now, this is from Psych Test, right?
Yes.
Now, you're probably wondering why I'm being so particular here, but it's very important to make sure that your instructions match what theirs are. So scroll to the second page if possible. Right, so it doesn't have it there. Okay, so let's go back to page 1. All right, so yeah, you're supposed to identify how often you experience the following microaggressions in the past 6 months. Right? So you see where it says respondents are instructed. So you're supposed to say, please identify,
Okay.
please indicate the number of times a microaggression occurred in the past 6 months. Give me a second to reshare my screen.
Sure.
And I'm gonna write that in and I'm gonna ask you to read it off to me. And there's a reason why. So please indicate how often, Destiny,
Sure. Please indicate the number of times that a
Okay.
microaggression occurred.
number of times that a microaggression occurred
In the past 6
And-
months.
past 6. That the following microaggression occurred. Okay. Now, yours is presented as components, isn't it?
Mhm.
Can you find number 1, question 1 of 45?
So the first one is someone assumed that I would have a lower education because of my race.
All right. Now you had response options. What were the response options? That
They were
would-
the Likert, so it's
Yeah.
I did not experience this event in the past 6 months.
0,
I
right?
yeah.
Hang on. Did
Mhm.
not experience this event in the past 6 months.
And then
Yeah.
I experienced this event 1 through 3 times in the past 6 months.
On.
Hmm.
What's the next one?
The same thing except for 7 through 6 times.
Whoa, 4 to
I mean,
6.
I'm sorry, 4 to 6.
And I'm assuming 7 to 9 and then 10 plus, right?
Yep.
Now, do you see why the copy option is going to become crucial when you're typing all these options? Seven to 9 times in the past 6 months. 4. All right, so Now I've done the groundwork of doing the response options, right? I never want to have to go through that process again. It's a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the question. And sure enough, the question is duplicated. Now, all I need to do is write item number 2. What is item number 2?
Sure, just give me a sec.
No problem.
Someone assumed that I was poor because of my race.
All right. So now this is item number 2. What do you think I'm going to say next? Do the same thing until
You
You
finished
have
the
every single question.
you finish that item or that questionnaire. So you do that until you get all 45 questions in there. Now, because I want to do a demo for each group, I'm going to imagine that all of these questions were related to my topic, even though they're not, right? And I'm going to imagine that for the time being that we got to the end of the REMS 45, right? Now, what would I do? Do you have any other instruments?
Yeah, there's 2 more. I guess we would start another section.
You start another section, exactly. So that's going to be section 3, but I'm going to move on to group 3 for section 3, if you don't mind. Is that okay? All right, group 3, can I get a questionnaire?
We're using the happiness scale, the conception of happiness scale. And one of our items is,
All right, are there, before we go to the items, are there instructions to?
oh, the instructions.
Yeah, that goes in the description.
The instructions is to please indicate, in your opinion, how important each of the factors below is in determining the happiness of an individual, period. A short definition or
Wait.
explanation. Oh,
Oh, that's not a Likert scale, a response?
yeah, it is. It says a short definition or explanation of each factor is given.
Short definition of each factor is stated. Great. So now I have my description. Notice COHS. Does COHS mean anything to a person who's not part of your group?
No.
No, it's not tipping off your hypothesis more than you have to. So remember the plus sign. The plus sign allows me to add my question. So now for group 3, what's your first question?
Well, it's not a question. It's just the factor is freedom of thought, and then they give the definition, and you choose whether it's between a 1 to 9.
Okay, of
1 being
thought.
least important and not at all important, and 9 being very important.
Gotcha. So what was the definition of freedom of thought?
Freedom to cultivate one's own ideas and abilities.
All right. Now, option 1 was
Not at all important.
well, and did they give you any other numbers?
No, they just for 9 being
They just
very
labeled
important.
the end.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. And then 9 was
Very important.
very in. There is another way to do this as a rating matrix, and you're probably wondering why I'm doing it this way. This is actually easier to export from SPSS rather than the matrix where you put the definitions and then it gets all scrambled. I don't want to scramble your SPSS file. So great. So you do freedom of thought. And then what do you do next? You duplicate the question, right? And then your second item on happiness would be
Freedom of
Uh,
action.
Freedom of action, yeah.
all right. And what's the definition?
Freedom to determine one's own actions.
All right. And you have that rating there, so you don't have to redo it. And you, what do you think I'm going to tell you?
Continue
Until we
to the
finish
end.
all items.
Tell you to get through all items. Great. Moving to group 4. Group 4. So when you're done all the items, you create a new section, right? For the next instrument, group 4. What's your next instrument? Or one of your instruments? Group 4. Let me stop sharing so I can call upon someone. All right. Group 4 includes Tamia. What's one of your instruments?
One of the instruments that we had was we had the social media presentation scale.
Great. So I'm going to go back in and you're going to give me the instructions for a social media self-presentation scale. And then we'll go through a couple items. So social media self-presentation scale. What are the instructions for the social media self-presentation scale?
It doesn't have. It just says,
So why don't I have you share your screen so I could see it, the instrument the way you have it.
okay.
And I know I'm taking a decent amount of time on this, but I'm trying to go slowly. I'm trying to get every group to have some kind of personal connection to the assignment. And then I'm going to put you in your groups to work. Is there anyone else in your group who might be able to share the screen for the social media?
I'm gonna ask because it's on my phone. I'm on my laptop today. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can share my screen.
Please do. Just so that I can see what the instrument looks like and how I'm going about this.
Sure. Can you see it?
Okay. Yeah. So scroll, let's see what it says. The measure is 15 items. Great. Now, can you go to participants were instructed to respond using a 5-point Likert scale? No, it's actually at the bottom. It's in the notes. Right, second page, yeah. Strongly disagree to strongly agree by considering the use of their most frequent social media platform. Great. I think we can do that. So unshare your screen for a second. And then I'm going to share my screen again. Thank you for that. All right, so let's go back in there. Select the choice that most reflects your perspective with one equal strong disagree, and 5 equals strongly agree. All right, now, can I ask you again, the plus sign? I'm gonna make a question for it. What was the first question of the social media self-presentation skill?
Okay, so the first one is I display photos that involve a variety of images of me on social media.
Involve a variety of
Images of me on social media.
images of me on social media. Right, and then again, we're gonna do this whole thing, 1 equals strongly disagree, 2 equals somewhat disagree, 3 equals neither agree nor disagree, 4 equals somewhat agree, and then 5 equals strongly agree. All right, so I made that first response, and then I'm going to copy it. What's your second question? Now notice your response choices are copied. It's going to save you a lot of time just copying the question and then writing them in. So Marie, what's your second question?
Second question, people could know different aspects of me by viewing my social media page.
All right. And then obviously you continue to copy. Now, the next page, everybody must have demographics questionnaire. Right? When it comes to your demographics questionnaire, I'm going to get to you. Don't worry, DeAndre. The first question you're going to ask is, what is your age? Notice it switch to short answer. That allows the person to respond with an answer. And then you do another question. Please indicate the gender expression you most identify with, right? And then here we're gonna have, I'm gonna add all, right? But then I'm gonna add an option that says transgender. And then I'm gonna add non-binary. And then now look, you can drag your responses up. We're gonna add other, right? And then prefer not, well, actually other is always last. All right, so now we have gender represented. There are standard questions that we ask. I did put up a copy of a demographics questionnaire that was used by a colleague in their research. I'm not particularly thrilled with it, but it gives you an idea of standard demographics questions. So you have that on Blackboard as well. Afterwards, after you do all of that, you need to do your, I didn't want to do a copy. You need to do the questions that are relevant to your topic. So group 1, I think you had a question about sleep. how much sleep do you get on average per day? Right? So you're gonna have less than 6 hours, 6 to 9 hours, more than 9 hours. And I'm making this up. You could do it any way you choose, right? But that would give a sense of how sleep impacts mood, irritability, aggression, whatever your instrument your group eventually decides to go on. That will be what it is. Now, group 2, do you have a specific grouping variable in mind that needs to be in your demographics questionnaire?
It's really just age, gender, and then occupational status. That's one we really needed.
Occupational. Okay. What is your occupational status? And then you would go by unemployed, right? Employed, part-time. And that would be 0 to 19 hours, right? Employed, I'm making it up. You have to figure out what it is. Full-time. And that would be 20 plus hours. Please check out what is considered whatever it is. Student, non-employed, retiree, non-employed, disabled, non-employed. I think these are the categories that make the most sense, right? But, unemployed implies that you're not working, but it's not because you're a student, not because you're a retiree or disabled. You're just not working you might have gotten fired, laid off, whatever it might be. So, and then they select the option that they best represents them. Group 3.
One of our questions is, do you own a pet?
Do you own a pet? Now, this is just going to be
Yes or no?
yes or no. I'm just going to add on, then delete maybe because it's quicker than typing it in. Group 4. Do you have any grouping variables?
Yeah, we had gender and GPA.
Okay, so gender is already going to be reflected. GPA is something new. What is your GPA? That is going to be similar to age with which a short answer, right? Now, before I finish with this, I might recommend that all of your responses be forced responses. So make them all required, right? And what that's going to do is that's going to do the same thing we did with the consent form. They can't just skip from section to section without filling out all the answers.
You could click the dot at the top right, and then you can click, and no, in the settings, you have to click the settings at the top right.
Yeah.
The one to the left of the set. The little gear next to the eye.
Oh, the settings.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then presentation, I believe. And where is it? because it's somewhere in there you can enforce all of the questions, so you won't have to individually go through all of them. I'll
Well,
find it.
here's the trick. Had I had my wits about me, I would have told you to do the first one as forced response, and every copied one would automatically be forced response.
Oh, I just
Yeah,
found
so-
it.
Yeah,
You
where
have to
is
click
it?
the dot dot dot. It was the first one I was telling you to click, and then you scroll down to preferences,
Okay, preferences.
and then it should say make questions required.
And they- and then click save, and that, beautiful. So again, so this is how you do it. Now, when you're done, notice we have all of our instruments, and instead of me just doing something that's mine, I went from group to group and said, okay, let's work on your instrument. To give you an idea of what you're gonna have, you should have all of your you should have, just to be clear, an informed consent form. You should have all of your instruments and a demographics questionnaire. That's that. But when you're done, you can, again, add collaborators. This is important. So I said, whoever the lead is, right? That could be whatever. Then you could start adding people. You want to add all the members of your group to the Google form. And you want to add me. I want to be able to see all of your forms. Does that make sense? So it should be you, all of the other members of your team, and me as the instructor. Good? All right, so I'm going to click done. Another thing that I want to show you is, if this does what I think it's supposed to do, you can get a link. You can click a link and you can send out the link that way. There's another option. Give me 1 second. Let's see where it is. Gear setting. All right. Presentation. I want to do the tiny URL, but I'm not finding it right now. All right. You can
You have to
preview.
click the arrow. Oh, you have to click send.
Give me 1 second. You could also preview your survey. So this gives you the ideas, if you're a participant, what you get. So yes, some 18 years old or older. I understand the information in the consent form and I'd like to participate. Remember how you did them as different pages? So group 2, I don't remember what their instrument was the REMS 45. So now all of the REMS 45 questions will be there. Now let's see if I try to advance it without moving. It says, sorry, this question is required. All right, I'm gonna answer, move to the next. Then we have the conception of happiness, right? That's by itself. So each instrument is self-contained, right? Social media self-presentation. And then I should have demographics. And when that's done, so 40 male, okay. I should get your responses recorded, right? So now I'm good. Let's go back into preview again. So now it has a response for this, right? Let's go back into preview one more time and see what happens if I say no. This should send me, it shouldn't do that. So what should happen, I don't know why, maybe because it's in preview mode, it should send me to the end of the survey. All right, so let me get out of this. All right, let me get out of that. Okay. All right, so are you still seeing my screen? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so now here, send, and you can send it by email. You could send it by link. Now, when you do it by link, the link is ridiculously long. You can shorten the link. This is similar to tiny URL. It shortens it. So if you're going to send this and put it on your social media, if you're going to send it to your friends or text, this is probably the better bet. Now you can send it by mail if you have email addresses. Remember how if you're using regular email, you had to have a script, some kind of letter you're sending. If you're putting on your social media, you had to have some kind of script, right? That you're putting on social media that everybody gets. So these are the two that I recommend. All right. So you have your link, or it's shortened, or if you want the long form, you could do it that way too. And that's how you send it out. Now, my recommendation to you though, is to copy the link and then paste it on your social media as needed. That in a nutshell is how you make your survey. Now, we do have a response. So remember I said we might be able to get some of the demographics questions. So this will give you frequency, right? One response is going to be 100%, but you can get age, you can get, one male. So when we write the method section, even if we haven't gotten to SPSS yet, I believe we should be able to write the participant subsection. So I'm going to stop share, but DeAndre, I think you had a question.
The question I was gonna ask, like, why is the demographics coming after the the scale and the informed consent? Like, wouldn't it come before?
So that is entirely up to you. Now, one of the reasons why I put the demographics question last is I try and get the most important information first and capture your attention. So when you do surveys, you want to put your most important information first so that they're motivated to fill it out. One of the challenges, which I think you're highlighting, is if you do the demographics last and then they stop, then you have those group comparisons, you can't do any of them. So you have to exclude their data altogether rather than using part of their data. It's entirely up to you. My style has always been to put it last, but I think you're bringing up a good point that if you put the demographics questionnaire first, you already get the information you need about the person and their profile beforehand. So either way is fine by me. And I don't want you to follow my lead just because that's how I do it. Good. Any other questions before I put you into your groups and expect you to work on this? All right, so I'm going to stop the recording. It'll take me about 2 minutes to put you into your groups, but we'll go from there.